Lucky Luciano in 5 minutes. Lucky Luciano was one of the preeminent characters of the 20th century. There are many stories about him, many of them legendary. It's certain that he immigrated to the United States via Ellis Island in 1906 and was isolated there because of smallpox infection that forever scarred his face. Lucky Luciano was born Salvatore Lucania on November 24, 1897, in the small town of Lercara Fredi in Sicily. From 1907 he lived with his family on the Lower East Side of New York. Here he began his criminal career, and in 1907 he was arrested for the first time. Luciano also met one of his most important companions, friends and business partner, Meyer Lansky, when he was young. Just as Luciano would become one of the most prominent members of the American Cosa Nostra, Meyer Lansky would become one of the most prominent members of the Cosa Nostra. At 14, Luciano won over $200 in gambling and has been calling himself Lucky Luciano ever since. At least that's what one legend says about his nickname. Instead of going to school, Lucky Luciano preferred to devote himself to a criminal career. His business included extortion and drug trafficking. These activities earned him his first prison sentence. To save his family from shame, he changed his first name from Salvatore to Charles. After 6 months in prison, after being convinced in 1916, he joined the Italian 5 Points gang. In 1917, he evaded military service with a trick. During this time, he met prominent members of the mafia, such as Al Capone and Frank Costello. In 1920, Lucky Luciano worked as a driver and bodyguard for Joe the Boss Masseria, the capo di tutti I capo, Italian for boss of all bosses, of the Sicilian mafia in New York. He was also part of the ethnical mixed Broadway mob during Prohibition and made a fortune from the alcohol trade. But this collaboration with non-Sicilian brings Luciano into conflict with his conservative boss Joe Masseria. The attempted assassination of Luciano in 1929 is said to have been commissioned by Joe Masseria. At least that's what Meyer Lansky told his friend Lucky Luciano. Lucky Luciano narrowly escapes the assassination with life-threatening injuries. The numerous stab wounds caused scars and a dropping eyelid. The police described Luciano's survival as luck. At least that's another legend about the origin of his nickname. During the so-called War of Castellammare, he finally switched to the side of Salvatore Maranzano, Joe Masseria's competitor. It is said Luciano has been involved in the murder of Masseria. Lucky Luciano, still Masseria's bodyguard, claims he was in the bathroom at the time his boss was killed. In the end, Lucky Luciano also had Maranzano murdered before Maranzano could assassinate him and emerged victorious from the War of Castellammare. In order to prevent further bloody conflicts, he founded the so-called Commission, a body in which the 5 most important families of the Cosa Nostra in New York and the Chicago outfit, as well as the Cosa Nostra, were represented. Everything seems to go well for Luciano when, in 1933, Pirello LaGuardia was elected mayor and seats Thomas E. Dewey as the special prosecutor charged with taking action against organized crime in New York. Luciano's activities in prostitution and the white slave trade formed the basis for the investigation. On May 11, 1936, the trial of Lucky Luciano began. The court sentenced him to between 30 and 50 years in prison. Officially, he lost his position in the Cosa Nostra, but he managed to maintain his position of power from prison. Luck came to his aid again in 1941, when Hitler declared war on the US. Fearing sabotage in New York Harbor, the US Navy made a deal with the Mafia. The Mafia was supposed to guarantee the security of New York Harbor. In return, Luciano's sentence was reduced. Lucky Luciano was allowed to leave prison in 1946. But since he did not have American citizenship, the US authorities expelled him and he was not to be able to return to the USA during his lifetime. Although he managed to get into criminal business in Italy and his words still carried weight in New York, his power was dwindling more and more. On January 26, 1962, when he was about to pick up his biographer from Naples airport, Lucky Luciano collapsed and died. The police ordered an autopsy, which revealed that Lucky Luciano has died of a heart attack. He finally returned to New York dead, where he is buried in St. John's Cemetery. In the box above you will find a playlist with historical headlines. The link can also be found below the video. Thank you for watching.